Hey, this is Frank Todaro,
otherwise known as Starscream.
And you're listening to the Geekcast Radio Network.
I don't want to grow up buying Toys R Us kid. They got a million toys at Toys R Us that I can play with. I don't want to grow up.
I'm a Toys R Us kid.
They got the best for so much less.
You'll really flip your lid.
From bikes to trains to video games.
It's the biggest toy store there is. Gee whiz.
I don't want to grow up, because baby, if I did,
I couldn't be a Toys R Us kid. Once a Toys R Us kid.
always a Toys R Us kid.
We're now listening to Geekcast Radio and Toycast as we continue the Top 100 Toys Countdown. Today we'll be revealing entries number 100 through 76. I am one of your hosts, TFG and Mike. Joining me, almost always, is the rubber ducky loving Steve Megatron. Hello.
Yo.
And from the planet of KT Toys, we have none other than Mr. Optimus Solo. Hello.
Oh.
So take it away, sir, and let us know what we'll be starting with here in part 2 of the GCRN Top 100 Toys Countdown.
Well, we're going to be counting down, like you said, numbers 100 through 76 before we get into the actual number, just like hopefully you listened to the intro episode, but we'll be keeping track of a bunch of things, toy companies, toy categories, when they premiered or were released to the public, things like that. We'll be mentioning how many lists they made it, how many points they got for various things, and it's going to be a bunch of fun. And then once we get through all of the countdown, 100 through 1, which will be 4 episodes, then we'll probably do another wrap-up episode where we talk about ones that didn't make it, ones that we think should have made it, should not have made it, should have been higher, should have been lower. That's what we get into over the course of this, is debating on worthiness or how high, how low, things of that nature. So it's going to be interesting. Toys is has a lot of variety, so it'll be interesting to see out of the 25 we revealed today which ones we all voted for. I can tell you I voted for less than half of these, so it's going to be interesting. And I think what's going to be very interesting is when we get into the ones that just missed the countdown at the end of all of this. I think the 10 that were closest are going to be very interesting to see people's reactions of. We should really go back. I should go back through all the top 100 lists that we've ever done to see how many times we start the countdown off with a tie.
Oh, God.
Because I think it's happened.
I think it's about every time.
Every time. Every fucking time.
So we go on a point system based on all the lists that are turned into us. And, we have a variety of lists that we'll mention to the people that were involved throughout this countdown. And we tally up their rankings, we give point totals, and that's what determines a tie. So if they have the exact same point total, that gives us a tie. Tiebreaker is very simple. It's either who appeared in more lists. That's the first tiebreaker, is just who appeared on more of the entrants. And if they appeared on the exact same number of lists, then it's which one had the highest ranking out of the two. So we're starting off with a tie. So we're going to give a 101, I guess, in this countdown, and then we'll get into 100, which will be the same point total. So starting off with number 101, and it's interesting that these two are the ones that tied, but we're going to start with, in the action figure world, this is the starting lineup sports action figures. So these are action figures, I guess you could say, or figurines. They're not really action figures because action implies that you can do stuff. These are just more like posed figures.
It's a hit. New starting lineup. The official collection of Major League Baseball stars. So real they seem alive. There's Gary Carter. Great uniform. Wally Joyner hitting a homer. Ozzie Smith.
Looks just like him.
And each has a collector's card. Find out who hit the most home runs, who had the most strikeouts. Yes, fans, starting lineup. So real they seem alive. Collect all your favorite Boston Red Sox and Detroit Tigers, like Wade Boggs and Jack Morris. Each sold separately from Kenner.
And they have been around for a lot of variety of sports: basketball, football, baseball, hockey, etc. They started in 1988 from the toy company Kenner, obviously developed in the United States of America. I did have some of these. My family, or my mom, or my parents, I'm not sure, got me some. I was a big Chicago Cubs fan, so they got me a variety of Cubs starting lineup figures. I think maybe I had a dozen at the most. I never really collected them outside of that, so I just had the ones that they gifted me in some way, shape, or form. But these have been around for a long time. Like I said, they debuted in 1988. They're still around, I believe. I'm not sure.
Yep, they are.
They still keep making them. I don't know if you can get them in actual like Target, Walmart per se, but I think you can get them through other avenues. Mike, did you ever have or see any starting lineup figures in your lifetime?
I had every single 80s Red Sox player they ever made.
Nice.
I had all the Boston Celtics. I had all the New England Patriots that they made. Of course, the Patriots. I barely remember any of their names other than Doug Flutie, but that's just whatever. I did not have any of the Bruins ones, sadly, but those were the ones that I was collecting with that. I think I might have had a Michael Jordan or a Magic Johnson, but other than that, yeah, I loved starting lineup as a kid. They were so cool.
And I think at times these were given away at events, games and things of that nature. So there was like special edition ones that you could get like at an actual baseball game or things of that nature. Steve, did you ever have any starting lineups?
I think I had a couple of Detroit Red Wings characters. Like, I think I may have had Yzerman or Osgood or something, one of those two. At one point, but I really didn't get into those because there really wasn't much playability with them.
Right. Yeah, it's more of a posing thing set on your shelf and display type thing. But I think what it was and what it makes it unique is that in the wide world of sports, you know, in all the major sports, there's not a lot to buy outside of clothing or like the cards, you know, baseball cards, football cards, those types of things. So sports cards and clothing. There wasn't a lot of other options as far as what you could buy. I guess you could buy like a baseball glove or a basketball that had like the logo on it. So this was kind of like a way to have a toy that was also in your favorite, whatever, athlete, sports team, sport, you know, whatever it might be. And there wasn't a lot of other things you could do in that realm. So I kind of get it as far as like it being a unique crossover between sports and toys that you didn't get a lot of. What's interesting, though, is what's going to come next and how that they're tied. I just find this one very unique. So coming in, I guess, officially now at number 100 is another group of action figures. And it might not be sports, but how about some sports entertainment? This is wrestling action figures.
Big match at my house. I'll bring my guys. You have yours. I've got Junkyard Dog.
It's World Wrestling Federation Superstars.
I've got Brutus Beefcake. Here's George the Animal Steel. I've got Great Hammer Valentine. Ricky the Dragon Steel.
Yeah, they're so real.
And Rowdy Roddy Piper.
Can you tell the difference? Wrestling Superstars, they're for real. Each sold separately from LJN. Yeah!
So starting lineup and wrestling action figures are tied for that number 100 spot. I find that very interesting. Wrestling action figures have been around for quite some time. Probably the most notable like entrance into the realm of toys would have been in like the 1984 era with the LJN Wrestling Superstars line. But I'm sure, Mike, you can speak to this even more probably than I can, but wrestling action figures have had a lot of variations, a lot of different iterations from different companies representing WWE and AEW and WCW and all kinds of different sizes. And there was the, what were they called? The ones, the bendies that we had.
Yep. I remember. I know. Yeah. I forget what the actual name of those were, but yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. The ones that you could bend the arms and it just kind of like flung back. It was almost like, what the hell is it called? Almost like Blast Punch He-Man a little bit, but it was more flexible than an actual PVC figure. It was, like you said, bendy. It was, the material of it was different.
Yeah, and these were very much out there and around. I know I had a number of friends that had tons of stuff, and the thing that you could do with this is you could also get like the rings. Like instead of a play set like you would for other action figures, you could get like the different rings, whether it be WrestleMania or whatever it might be. And then you would have all the different figures. I never owned any figures myself. As an adult, I did buy a Tatanka figure that's still in the box just because, well, I didn't buy it. I think Amanda got it for me for some type of present, Christmas, birthday, something of that nature, just because that was always my favorite figure. So I have two Tatanka figures of different versions sealed in the box, but I've never bought any, but I know I had a ton of friends that had them out and they'd be like missing pieces or broken or things of that nature because they just, what are you going to do with wrestling action figures besides bash them into each other? So it wasn't, you can't find a lot of like original ones that were out of the box that are in great condition because of how hard these got played with. But Mike, what was your experience with wrestling action figures?
I had a lot of them. I think I had at least one WWE ring. I only really needed one ring. I know they made a bunch of rings, as you said, for various whatever, but I had a lot of the WWE figures as a kid. I like that they've been doing over the last, I think it's been maybe 5 or 10 years, the WWE crossovers. We had 2 waves of the TMNT WWE. So you have Raph as like Macho Man or Leo as whatever. And those are really cool. What they're doing with the modern stuff with the wrestling stuff is really cool.
Yeah, and it kind of works into, like, especially with the fad these days, which is figures to come with like multiple faces or multiple hands or interchangeable parts. That really works for wrestling because they can do all kinds of different stuff with some of those characters and have different eras represented or different things. So it's kind of interesting to see all the different lines these days. They also have a pretty cool, there's a He-Man crossover between
there is,
yeah, as well.
It's Masters of the WWE, I believe it's called. I forget what figures are in that line, but I did see Pixel Dan do a video on those.
Steve, either comments on wrestling figures in general or just the fact that we've had 2 action figure groups starting lineup in wrestling figures to start off this countdown?
I think it's funny that we had 2 sports action figures lineups right from the get-go. Glad that they're here. Mm-hmm. The wrestling ones, I'm kind of surprised it hit 100. I'm surprised it's not higher on the list just because there's such a huge cult following behind wrestling, and like there's whole stores, like toy stores, of just people's wrestling figures. And I used to have some of the old WCW during the NWO days.
Nice.
So I had like Macho Man and like, you know, the WCW ring, and my brothers and my stepdad had a bunch of different ones, and then we would mess around with it, and then we had some of the video games and things like that. So I'm glad that they're here and represented. And if people want more thoughts on wrestling, they can go check the Top 100 Wrestling countdown.
That's true. That's very true. And wrestling figures, you know, have been around for almost 40 years. Next year will be 40 years since that original 1984 debut. I'm not saying there wasn't other figures maybe that predated that, but the main one from WWE started in 1984. Like I said, that was from LJN. I believe Mattel has a lot of the license for some of the wrestling figures, but there's different companies represented by different brands, so it's kind of hard to pinpoint just one. Starting lineup,
I know has the WWE license, I think.
Yeah, but like AEW is probably a different company, and
right, yeah.
Who knows what else. But, and like I said before, some of these companies obviously get changed, the rights get bought out, or companies buy other companies. So like I said, with starting lineup figures, that started as a Kenner thing. They're currently owned by Hasbro. And like we said, wrestling and LJN, but now currently most of the WWE stuff is Mattel. So it'll be interesting to track some of that as well. So action figures dominating early on. We'll see how that goes as we move into our number 99, which is completely different. This was a write-in vote by a lot of people because I did fail to have this on the toy catalog. Mainly, I guess I just didn't think of it at the time, but gladly enough people did to write it in, I guess. So number 99 is going to be the infamous walkie-talkie.
Here's a space-age gift for kids from Radio Shack. The original Space Patrol walkie-talkie. You get 2 for just $14.95 a pair, and they really work. They're crystal-controlled and battery-operated, just like Dad's bigger CB units. And they're built in Radio Shack's own electronics factory. So this Christmas, thrill your kids with a $14.95 a pair Space Patrol. Only at Radio Shack. A Tandy company.
I think you can date this as a toy back into the 1935 era. Now, obviously, walkie-talkies are originally going to be made for other purposes, war-related and things of that nature, but they're going to then make their way into kids' rooms as a plaything. I never actually had a walkie-talkie growing up, ever, I don't think, so it's not something I played with, but I totally get it, because being able to talk with, like, the next door neighbor, if you had a kid that, you know, friend that lived next door, or maybe a couple doors down, they didn't have a huge range, or just being able to have, you know, inside, outside, or from upstairs, downstairs, that type of thing. I get the fun for sure. Mike, did you ever have a walkie-talkie, or what do you think as far as its worthiness of being in the top 100? Do you consider that a toy?
Oh yeah, 100%. It definitely is. And I think my cousins and I had some, but we would only ever really use them if they came over my house and stayed the night or whatever, and I went over their house, vice versa. Yeah, it wasn't The thing with the walkie-talkies is you need brothers and sisters or lots of cousins, and I did have lots of cousins, but I was an only child, so half the time I was reading books or playing with other action figures or whatever. So, but no, it was always super fun when we would get together and use them.
Yeah, it's just a different thing you could do, especially with a role-playing or just like other types of games where you're not necessarily tied to like a video game or a TV or an action figure. It's like more so like things that you could do as you run around the house or the yard or things of that nature. And I believe 1935 is like the kind of more of the war use. I don't think that's when it actually was in kids' hands, but it's hard to trace back exactly the history of like when it becomes more of a quote-unquote toy. Steve, what do you think of the walkie-talkie here making our list?
I totally forgot about this, even though I've had various versions of this over the years. I mean, I had the Ninja Turtle walkie-talkies like back when I was a kid and totally blanked on this. But it brought back memories, and honestly, my kids have them in various forms. I mean, like more the more modern, smaller, compact hiking versions. But I mean, it's still the same concept.
Yeah, absolutely. It gives a lot of variety of different things you can do with the walkie-talkie. You know, you can lend it to a lot of different types of games or adventure things or whatever you're doing as a child. So I think it's definitely worthy of being here. Again, I spaced just like you and didn't include it on my list, but I have no problem with it being in the top 100. Going into 98 is going to be interesting because if you would have asked me to list like franchises that had action figures that would be included in the top 100, I don't think I would have got to this one if I listed like the top 20 or 25 in my head, but it is here. So I'm hoping that you guys can speak more to it because it was not anywhere near my radar. And this is going to be from a Tyco release from 1988. So this is maybe slightly past when I was doing some of the action figures. I'm not sure, but we're going to the world of Dino Riders.
The greatest battle in the history of the universe is about to begin. The Rulons!
They're about to attack!
Quickly, we'll have to trap them in the canyon.
The Dimetrodons are harmless. Leave them be.
The clever Dino Riders seal off the escape route.
It's up to you, Commandos. Now!
Leaping into the path of the thundering giants, the Commandos close off the front of the pass.
Blast them to bits, Ant-Men.
Put this in your Easter basket, Krulos.
Don't forget to ride home, Rulons.
The Dino Riders put on the finishing touches. But Krulos escapes on Tyrannosaurus Rex.
Look out! Sky!
The Stegosaurus.
Take this, lizard lips.
I'll be back, Questar.
The battle is over, but the action's just beginning with the complete Dino Riders collection.
Dino Riders. Harness power, Dino Riders.
The Dino Riders are ambushed.
We've got you outnumbered, Gunner.
Gotcha trapped, Hammerhead! The evil Rulons on Triceratops close in on the Dino Riders.
I've waited a long time for this, Gunner.
Laser cannon fire distracts the Rulon beast.
Sure hope you can swim, Fishbait.
Tyrannosaurus and Triceratops with motorized walking action, and Deinonychus, each with figures and battle gear.
Dino Riders. Harness power, Dino Riders.
Tri-cannons.
Forward laser, mandibles.
Omni-lasers.
Proton cannons, buzzsaw, omni-laser.
Broadside rockets.
Tri-laser.
Questar.
Krulos by Tormako.
The evil Rulons are tired of playing games.
You are finished, Questar.
They want the Dino Riders time key.
Your brother eats flies, Krulos.
The greatest battle in the history of the universe is about to begin. Tyrannosaurus Rex and Diplodocus with motorized walking action, and Monoclonius, each with figures and battle gear.
Dino Riders.
I was not expecting this to make this countdown, but there was 4 series of Dino Riders toys from the 1988 to the 1990 range period. They had series 1, 2, 3, and Ice Age, and they had like motorized walking actions with dinosaur heads and things like that. And there was toys that rode on the dinosaurs. Mike, did you have any of these?
I didn't. You and I are only a year apart. You were 7, I was 8 at that time. And I was more into Transformers. I would rather have my dinosaurs be robots than actual real dinosaurs. No T-Rexes. Don't have feathers, folks. And yeah, I remember these, but also I preferred the other, and hopefully that shows up somewhere. I prefer Dino Saucers over Dino Riders.
Yep.
I just did not care about Dino Riders. I could care less. So maybe somebody else who's listening to this, maybe they have a more positive memory. Like, I remember seeing them. I remember my mom taking me to the store. I chose correct. I chose the other one instead of the Dino Riders.
Yeah, and I was definitely still doing toys in 1988. I kind of misspoke there.
You just weren't doing. Yeah, exactly.
I think the other thing that happens though with kids is it seems like every kid that I've ever known has a dinosaur phase, right? And a phase where they're either into actual dinosaur toys like figures, or they're into like a dinosaur figure like this, or Dino Saucers, or they're into dinosaur movies like Land Before Time, or, that type of thing. But I feel like every kid has a dinosaur phase, but they hit at completely different times. Like sometimes it's when they're like my daughter is 3 and she loves dinosaurs, but she might not care about dinosaurs when she's 8. You know what I mean? So it's like it hits at a different time period. Like, in my dinosaur phase was way earlier than this in my life. Like, I think I was like probably 4 or 5 when I liked dinosaurs. So by the time 1988 rolls around, I was just doing other stuff and involved with other toy lines. So this didn't hit for me, but it doesn't necessarily surprise me that we have a dinosaur related toy in the countdown somewhere, or at least one if we don't get more down the line. Steve, what do you think of this one?
I mean, I definitely think that anything dinosaur related getting on the top 100 is a win.
Yeah. I actually do own, I never owned any of these as a kid. I do own one of them now because I've been trying to keep going with my hero and villain collection. So I do have a couple of these figures now to add to that. I think I have the main good guy. I don't have the main villain yet. So they're really tiny guys, it seems like, compared to some too. But Dino Riders making the countdown here at number 98. So it's interesting. We had 2 action figures, and we went to kind of more of a general, like, universal thing with walkie-talkie. Back to action figures with Dino Riders. Now we're going to go back to more of a universal appeal with our number 97 entry, which is most famously produced by a company called Whammo. And we are going to see Whammo show up multiple times in this countdown. It's not the people that invented this item, because this item's probably been around since about 1957, but it really took off in the late 90s, like 98, when Whammo kind of took over, and I'm talking about the Frisbee.
Want fun? Get Frisbee. It flies through the air with the greatest of ease. Want fun? Get Frisbee. It's the newest, fastest, most flying fun under the sun. Frisbee is actually a soft, round airfoil with gyro action. It flies straight as an arrow, or bounces off a walk. You can even run for a pass. Frisbee football. Get mom and dad into the game. Frisbee is wonderful family fun. Frisbee is a brand new kind of toy. It's the sensational flying saucer that you command. You can make it soar just like a bird. You can throw it away and make it come right back like a boomerang. You can even curve it around trees. If you want fun, get Frisbee today. And remember, if it doesn't say Whammo, it isn't a Frisbee. $1 wherever toys are sold.
So the Frisbee comes in at number 97, one of our outdoor category toys. And I think this one works for me because when I was making my list, I was thinking things that like were very universal or general. Like, it didn't have to be like a niche audience. It didn't only appeal to boys or only appeal to girls or only appeal to certain age groups. Like, I've seen all ages play with Frisbees. Like, kids play with Frisbees, adults throw Frisbees in big yards or fields, different things like that. They can be recreation. They can be taken serious. So I think Frisbee has like a lot of different ways to be enjoyed and taken, played with. So I think it's a toy that kind of fits a lot of different things. That's why I included it in my countdown. So I'm fine with Frisbee being on the list. I don't know if some people will say 97 is too high or too low, but Steve, what do you think?
I mean, I ranked mine at 91 for this, so I'm pretty stinking close. But I mean, like, they give, yes, they're knockoffs, but they give Frisbees away at like parades. They give them away at, all kinds of events. It's just one of those things that universally everybody knows what it is and what it does. And so...
And it can double as a plate. So
yeah, I mean, like, and kids play with them all the time to get them stuck on the roof or, just in general, they're a fun toy.
I remember a variation of this that my cousins had that was like taking Frisbee to the next level, and they called it, I think it was called an aerobie. And it was just like the ring with nothing in the middle, and it would go like 10 times farther than a Frisbee. I don't know why, but that thing was crazy until you got it stuck in a tree. Mike, what do you think about Frisbee making our countdown?
You know, there is one little improvement. We're talking franchises here, bud. All you gotta do is keep your delivery to under 30 minutes. Let's see what we got here. We got a pizza. Got that, dude? Pizza. Frisbee. Also cool. Who frisbeed me in the face? I'm out of here. Why, I oughta...
Oh, I like it. I think it's cool. Of course, the first thing I hear the term Frisbee, all I can think of, and say what people will about the third movie, all I can think of is Mikey burning the pizza. Frisbee, also good. And he throws it at Donnie's head.
And I want to correct myself before the listeners go crazy. I said 1998 when Whammo made it popular. I meant 1957. That's when Whammo made it popular. 1937 is when it kind of the first flying disc happened. The reason I had 1998 in my head is because Frisbee was a finalist for the National Toy Hall of Fame in 1998. So I will be mentioning some of the different things that we have, whether they're in the Toy Hall of Fame or whether they were at least a finalist. So far, Frisbee is the first one we've mentioned that was a finalist for the National Toy Hall of Fame, and that happened in 1998. They have not made it into the Hall of Fame yet. So, all right, that's number 97. Let's move on to number 96. I guess you could say this is also somewhat of a universal toy, although I can't do it. And it's also a toy that came around in the 1950s, was made popular. We're talking about the skateboard.
It all starts with a push. A push that starts from nothing, yet leads to everything.
Was that okay?
A push that goes from riding hills to backyard pools to straight up walls. Pushing through skinned knees and broken bones. Over cracked pavement, busted ramps, and that single pebble. It's a push that turns a 360 into a 720 into a 900. We used to see ourselves as a family of misfits, but now the world will call us Olympians.
So the skateboard, popularized in 1950, I think especially in California at the time, and then kind of spread throughout the rest of the country. Also a National Toy Hall of Fame finalist in 2008, so that's back-to-back finalists we're mentioning here. I did not have skateboards on my list personally, but that's just because out of that grouping, like, of similar type of things, which I'm not going to mention them just in case they show up later, but there was other things within that kind of universe that I thought were a little more universal than even skateboards. So I kind of limited myself from like the outdoor wheel type toy. So skateboards didn't make my countdown, but I totally get it. Like, skateboards have been around for a long time. I never had one and never learned how to skateboard, but I know a lot of people that did. So Mike, what do you think of skateboards? Is it top 100 worthy?
Oh, it definitely is top 100 worthy, but just like you, different circumstances, obviously. I never had one. I always wanted one. I always wanted to learn, but with the cerebral palsy and all that stuff, it just was never... I could barely ride a bike half the time. So, skateboard, that's just like handing me a lit firecracker and closing my palm around it or something.
I mean, obviously there's skateboard or skate parks all over the place. Like, I think almost every halfway decent sized town seems to always have like a skate park somewhere. It's just something that I always saw more on TV or in the movies or something like that than in real life. I didn't have a skate park anywhere near us, and it's just not something that I was into myself. But like I said, I totally get it. Steve, are you the lone member of us that has ever been on a skateboard?
I've tried it. I've never been able to actually stay on it.
Yeah. What do you think about its top 100 worthiness?
I mean, I can see it because, I mean, there's still skate parks popping up all over the place, even here. So, I mean, I can see the validity of it being there. I just personally don't have an affinity for it, so it's not on my list.
Right.
I like watching people do it more than me trying to do it myself. Like, look, we can't have the top 100 and have skateboard appear and not mention Tony Hawk. or any of the other skaters that we've ever watched in the last 20 or 30 years.
Or the dozens and maybe hundreds of videos that we've probably all watched with just full of skateboard people like crashing or biffing or
pretty much
totally damaging themselves on tricks and things of that nature. So that's almost more entertaining than watching somebody actually complete the jumps and the tricks. But all right, we're going to kind of stay in that like outdoor realms and kind of more of that universal thing. I think this was more even a bigger fad though at once upon a time. Also somewhat originated in the 1950s, also from had a really popular run with Whammo. I'm not saying that they invented this item, but they had a popular line of them. It was also a National Toy Hall of Fame finalist in 1999, and this is the hula hoop.
Hey, the amazing U63 Whammo hula hoops are here. Just give it a spin and do lots of tricks. Round the neck's called Kill the Buzzard. Round your waist, the natural. Slip it way down and do the knee knocker. It's easy to do the stork. Play war. See who can knock the hoop down first. The winner! It's fun to skip with your Whammo hula hoop. Throw it away and it boomerangs right back. Flip it up and do Kill the Buzzard. It's easy, it's fun to keep them spinning round and round. They defy gravity. Do all the new dances with the Whammo hula hoop. Quick now, run through your hula hoop. Even play giant horseshoes. Become a hula hoop expert. Do the amazing Upsy Daisy. It'll climb like magic. Win your big neighborhood contest. Everybody's playing with the new Whammo hula hoop. Buy yours today at all toy, drug, and department stores. Get one, get two, get more.
So obviously the 50s, that's like an iconic thing during the 50s is the hula hoop. So I think hula hoop and Frisbee to me like have to be on this countdown somewhere. So I voted for this and I have no problem with it being where it is. What do you think, Mike?
Same thing. I have no problem, but at the same time, I'm so not coordinated for a hula hoop. I know it's just swinging your hips like you're, dancing in the 50s and all that, but nope.
Steve, what do you think about hula hoop, Frisbee, skateboards, and those three kind of coming back to back?
I mean, I can see this being on the list. I don't have it on my list, but I can see it being on the list just because it's another one of those iconic things that have been around since forever. And it's just funny, I was on Whammo's website just kind of perusing different things that they own the rights to now. Maybe not created, but at least own it now. And they own Frisbee and hula hoop.
Yep. So Whammo making an impact here. One thing that we haven't had yet on the countdown, Mike, would you like to take a guess what category we haven't featured yet?
Board games or card games?
Ding, 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 ding.
Yeah.
All right. Board games. Let's go to one of those. So our number 94 is our first entrance into the board game category. This one became a thing in 1965 from a company called Irwin Toys, currently owned by Hasbro. But we're talking about the game of Trouble.
I'll give you trouble, a 6. Fun's a poppin', trouble's poppin', trying to win the race. Trouble's poppin', bubbles poppin', poppin' every place. Kids are poppin', fun's are poppin', mom's in trouble too. Grandma's poppin', grandpa's poppin', hoppin' over you. Everybody's poppin' in and out of trouble. Everybody's poppin' the pop-o-matic bubble. Everybody's poppin' in and out of trouble. Everybody's poppin' the pop-o-matic bubble.
Trouble and double trouble from the Troublemakers at Milton Bradley.
So one of the Pop-O-Matic games where you had the dice inside the little bubble that you could pop and
yep.
I remember having this, and I remember there was like travel versions and things like this. I didn't spend a ton of time playing Trouble, and for me, it didn't make my list only because I restricted how many board games I could vote for, and so only certain board games got my vote. But Trouble is one of those universally loved, I think, board games. But where do you, in the realm of board games, do you think it's worthy enough to make our top 100, Steve?
I think it's worthy. I don't know. Like, again, that's another one of those ones I enjoy it, but I don't enjoy it enough to put it on my list because to me it's not replayable enough.
Right.
But a lot of these, and I feel like this is going to be the case with a lot of the board games that pop up. They're iconic in their own right, but loved differently.
Yeah. I think it does have the uniqueness of that pop-o-matic thing, or whatever. Where I think there was a handful of games that did that, and this would be the one out of those that does deserve to be on there.
Yeah, because it did it well.
Yeah, Mike, what are your thoughts on the game of Trouble?
I played Trouble all the damn time. My cousins, my aunts, my uncles, my grandmother, everybody was getting in trouble. Because, again, you want to talk about something that's different. That isn't a card game. That isn't just, here's the game of life. Ugh. You know, it was different because of that pop-up thing, and you couldn't reach the dice because the dice was under the thing and whatever else, and it was fun. It was awesome. Yeah, I love Trouble.
And just for the record, for anybody that wants to know, there are other ties that are happening, on this countdown. I'm not pointing all of them out. I'm just giving it in the order that they would have fallen. So there's a lot of toys or a lot of ties in today's episode. So this is part of a 3-way tie, but it was the loser out of the 3.
Well, I mean, the thing is this is the bottom 10 or the bottom whatever. Like right now, as we're speaking, like numbers 101 to 90, like it's the bottom 10. You're gonna get a lot of things in here that, yes, they deserve to be on the list. But it's easier to have. I'd rather have a tie here than a tie at number 50 or number 25
or number 1.
God,
we've never had that.
Thank God we've never. We would be canceled if we had that.
All right, so number 93, we're going to go back outside, and we're going to go back to something that has wheels, and they're very powerful.
Power Wheels! Come on, let's go! Sitting tall in my Power Wheels, star of the show.
Pow, pow. Power Wheels, Power Wheels.
Now I'm driving for real. They got real live motors, got a grown-up feel. In my Power Wheels, I'm driving for real.
Pow, pow. Power Wheels. Pow, pow. Power Wheels, Power Wheels.
King of the road. The real Power Wheels, each sold separately. What a way to go.
So we're going to Power Wheels here. They became a thing basically in 1984, even though they've been around since the 1940s. I believe Italy might get credit for like the introduction in 1949-ish, but Mattel kind of brought them onto the scene in the U.S. in 1984. I there was always this thing, I think, between Power Wheels and Big Wheels and things of that nature. I never had any of them, but what I remember, since I didn't have one, and none of my friends had them either. To me, it was the commercial and the jingle, Power Wheels or whatever it was. Like that's what I remember about Power Wheels. I remember the commercials. So I did vote for Power Wheels. I didn't have it very high at all. I think it made it probably in this section of the countdown somewhere. So I get it because it was the big commercial. It was the thing that a lot of people wish they had or wanted, but most of us couldn't afford or didn't have. So we lived vicariously through the commercial and seeing people, and they had all kinds of different versions. They had like Barbie and all kinds of, like, I'm sure there was a He-Man or G.I. Joe or Transformers version or something like that. But Mike, what are your thoughts on Power Wheels?
I only really remember the commercial. I do not remember having one of these at all, but I always thought they were really cool.
For the record, my daughter has one. It's a little Minnie Mouse one, and she isn't super into it. She loved it when she got it, and she'll ride it for like a couple seconds, and then she wants to get off because I think it scares her at this point because she doesn't know how to drive. But and it scares her. Like the only place for her to really ride it is in our like courtyard area, which has a pool in the middle. So we don't want her driving it into the pool. So it's she hasn't got to enjoy it to its full potential yet, but she definitely does have a little Minnie Mouse Power Wheel. Steve, what do you think about Power Wheels?
It's one of those things that I didn't have as a kid, but I always wanted. And then when I got older, I was like, yeah, I like the idea, but I'm going to get a real car. And and so, one, they were insanely expensive. Two, I used to hear about the batteries having issues all the time. And power sluggishness. And what's funny is a few years ago, I think somebody was just getting rid of it and they just gave it to us. I've noticed a lot out, like, especially out here in Colorado, people just throw stuff out. Like, they can't sell it. So they'll throw it on their trash bin, or they'll be like, hey, do you want it? And so like my kid ended up with one at one point, and it worked good for a time, but I felt like they just didn't care after a while. I mean, he figured out how to drive it after running into everything under the sun, but it was just massively underpowered, and so he didn't really care for it very long. I feel like a go-kart had a better run with my kids than the Power Wheels, but at least was able to live vicariously through the kid as they played with it, knowing that I'd wanted one as a kid.
Right. I think it's just way more, there's way more kids these days that probably have them or have experienced them than in the 80s when it was like, I don't know how expensive they were, but they just seemed like they were too expensive for the average family. At least that's my recollection of it. Something that's not expensive for the average family. And, you know, we talked about Frisbee being like a universal toy. I don't think it gets much more. There may be a couple that could be more universal, but our number 92 has been around since like the 5th century. And I think you can give China the credit for maybe inventing this, but it's a really hard history to trace back. We're going to go to our number 92 entrant, the kite.
Look, there's Kite Man.
Wait a minute! Is a safe kite made of metal ever?
Never!
Wire or wet string ever?
Never!
Do you stay away from streets, antennas, and power lines?
All the time!
What about frogs?
I like frogs.
What if your kite winds around a power line?
Call the Kite Man!
At Pacific Power.
So the kite, which yeah, which made and I misspoke before. The Frisbee is in the National Toy Hall of Fame in 1998. Skateboards is in the National Toy Hall of Fame 2008. Hula Hoop made it in 1999. Kite made it in 2007. So we've had 4 toys that are in the National Hall of Fame. I had one of my columns mischecked, but so kite in the 5th, you know, around for thousands of years it seems like, and you know, you don't need money. You can make a kite almost just about anything. You just need a little wind. So I think it makes total sense for the kite to be on this countdown, because I don't know of anybody who has not had a kite in their hands at least once in their life. Like, it's just, you might not do it all the time, but you've probably flown a kite at least once. And there's a lot of different variations of it, different styles, different designs, different ways to do it. So it's not like my favorite toy to play with, but it's a toy I have played with, and I feel like that's the majority of humankind. So I think kite definitely deserves to be on here. What do you think, Mike?
Yeah, absolutely. It's something that is universal. It's something that everyone knows. It's, like you said, something that a person has done at least one time in their life, kind of thing. So.
Yeah. Steve, kite worthy of top 100?
Yeah. I mean, even if you're not very good at it, it's still something that everybody has done at least once. And my kids are pretty excited. Somebody we had over for dinner a few weeks ago just gave them a kite. And with the wind out here in Colorado, it'll fly. But yeah, and the funny thing is they're looking forward to it. And so I'll get to rediscover the pains and the joys of using a kite all over again.
It's like kite and Frisbee have more than one thing in common, and one of those things is getting stuck in trees or stuck in something, so, on a roof or whatever the case may be. So we're going to go from the kite to something that could not be more opposite of the kite, for our number 91. We're also going to make our first entry into the world of electronics. So from kite, which you need nothing electronic for, you just need some wind, to something you need all kinds of gadgets and gizmos for. We're talking about the Xbox. Our number 91 entrant, the Xbox, made its foray into the world in 2001 from Microsoft. Joining the video game wars between Nintendo and PlayStation. So we had Xbox here. Mike, out of the video game consoles, is this one worthy of being in the top 100? Did you vote for it, or what do you think about it?
I did not vote for it for one simple reason. The original Xbox controller is too damn big.
It's trash. The original...
I have
Yeah, that original controller was trash.
Yeah. So I have cerebral palsy. Most people that have heard our podcast before know this. I do not have functionality in my right hand. I taught myself in 1985 and 86 to play video games one-handed with the NES controller or the Super Nintendo controller, all that stuff. And controllers over the years had been getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, and then Xbox dropped this brick of a controller. I can't even... There's a picture. I'll probably have it in the post because that's where this video game system is whatever. But basically, I take, let's say, the Super Nintendo controller. I put the controller in my palm. I use my index and middle finger for the D-pad, and I use my thumb for all the buttons. That's how I've been able to play video games my whole life. And the Xbox controller is like an island. No, don't care.
Yeah, it was. I only had room for certain video game related things on my countdown, and Xbox did not make the cut for me. I get it's like one of the major three that kind of took the world by storm in the 2000s. You know, obviously Nintendo and PlayStation started a little before that, but you know, by the time Xbox came out, it was, you know, video games were dominating the world, it seemed like. And so I get it, but Xbox didn't quite make the cut for me. But I'm willing to hear arguments either way. Steve, what do you think about the Xbox?
I listed that in my top 10.
Nice.
Because after the initial Xbox, which I did play, I didn't own it. The first Xbox I owned was the 360, and then I had the Xbox One. And then after that, I just went straight PC gaming again. But I really liked the 360 controller to the point I still use it on my computer when I play certain games. And it's honestly like, I feel like that's where Xbox really started battling PlayStation and Nintendo. Like, I feel like the entry was just enough to knock Sega out. But I feel like they didn't really hit their stride until the 360. And so I feel like that there's still a strong contender.
Right.
With PlayStation and with Sony and with Nintendo. But yeah, I mean, I can see why some would go for it or against it.
Yeah, it's definitely being in the conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. It deserves to be in the conversation. It's one of those things where now it's like U.S., honestly, worldwide video game systems. There's multiple versions of the Xbox. There's multiple versions of whichever PlayStation number is currently out. Right now it's the 5. And then there's all the Nintendo consoles. That's it. 3 consoles.
Right.
We don't have, and I'm going to say this, and I highly doubt this is going to show up any higher than where we are right now. We don't have a ColecoVision, or we don't have a this or a that, or an Intellivision, or a whatever. Like, back in the 80s when video games kind of first hit the scene, everybody was trying to make the best one that they could. Nintendo hit it out of the park. Sega, Master System, I hated that damn thing. I made the wrong choice, damn it. And then, obviously, Sega went better with the Genesis versus Super Nintendo, and like we already said, PlayStation, blah, blah, blah. But, yeah, Microsoft hit the ground running with the first Xbox, and like Steve said, basically improved upon it with the 360, and they've been improving upon it ever since.
I still have a soft spot for Intellivision.
I know you do. That's why I said.
Let's go from something that you need controllers and games and electricity to something that you need your finger and maybe sand to play. But you also could do it on a board. There's so many different ways that you can play the game of Tic-Tac-Toe.
Never before has the battle of X's and O's been waged on such a vast and intense scale. Introducing the new electronic game of Tic-Tac-Toe. Totally extreme. More fun, more fight, and lots more ways to score. Just slap down and light up.
3 in a row, 4 in a row.
Oh, even 5 in a row. And the game automatically Tic-Tac-Totals up your score. He who scores more wins the war. Battle your friends or the computer with Tic-Tac-Total.
So Tic-Tac-Toe is going to be our number 90. It maybe originates somewhere around 1300 BC. It has been a National Toy Hall of Fame finalist. Like I said, you could play this on the beach. Just, drop a board in the sand and do your X's and your O's. You can do it with bags, bean bags that you're throwing at a board. There's so many different versions of Tic-Tac-Toe. It seems like it's constantly being like reinvented, I guess, because it's such a simple premise. The game everybody knows. You can do this anywhere. If you have a piece of paper and a pen, you have your finger in sand. You could, it's so many ways you can do this. So I voted for this. I just think it's so universal. It's something that you can play at a very young age. It's not going to maybe be a ton of fun as you get older, but it's something as an older person you can play with a younger person, and it's a lot of fun for them. So I think Tic-Tac-Toe definitely deserves it, so I have no problem with it being here at number 90. Steve, what do you think about the game Tic-Tac-Toe?
I don't have it on my personal list, but I mean, it does have notoriety as one of those games you can play anywhere with anything.
Right, it's like Hangman almost.
Yeah.
Mike, what do you think about Tic-Tac-Toe?
Yeah, I love Tic-Tac-Toe. It was always fun to play it as a kid. It was even more fun to watch the Hollywood Squares play it, though.
Yeah, there's been game shows about it, all kinds of stuff.
Those totals mean nothing now. We're back to square one, okay? Even playing field. And it's tic-tac-toe. You guys decide whether the answers the stars are giving are correct or they're just making them up. That's how you get the squares. Who won the coin toss backstage? All right, Evan, you start.
As we move into our 80s, we're going to get into number 89 next. It's going to be interesting because there was one thing that I considered when making my list, and that is like toys that were fads. So we kind of talked about how hula hoop was kind of a fad, but there was other toys that came around, post that time period. We're talking about like probably from the 1980s to present day, where there's a toy that becomes like the it thing. Like it is the toy that everybody has to buy. Like you've seen footage on different documentaries or highlight reels or whatever of people going mad at the stores for this toy or that toy. So it's interesting to see how the voters handled those toys, because there's been a number of them over the years, dozens that have been like the toy for that year. Like, especially working in the retail world, working at Target, like it was very interesting to see which toys all of a sudden became like popular with the moms. That was like everybody, all the moms had to get this. I don't know if Oprah was telling them or what, but it was like, oh, this is the toy for this season. I get it. So we're going to have one of those at number 89. I had like 3 or 4 of these like what I'm calling fad toys that I voted because of how crazy the fad was. It wasn't just that it was a fad for like that year, but how intense it was. So I think this totally represents that, what we have here at number 89, which is a toy that came out in 1996 and was all the rage from Tyco. We're talking about Tickle Me Elmo.
Watch out, there's something funny going on. It's new Tickle Me Elmo. Your child tickles Elmo and he talks.
That tickles.
And laughs. Tickle him again and hold on, because his whole body shakes with laughter.
Oh, boy.
So be on the lookout. He's coming to a funny bone near you. Tickle Me Elmo, the newest huggable member of the Tyco Sesame Street family.
So Sesame Street and Tyco making a joint venture here with the Tickle Me Elmo that came out in 1996. It went bananas. This is actually a Toy Hall of Fame finalist as well, so it made that much of an impact. My daughter has one. I don't know if she loves it or not, but she has one just because I figured I had to give her one. But Tickle Me Elmo, Steve, what do you think?
I definitely think, with the craze that went over that thing, it definitely deserves to be on the list. My kid had
how
one.
else are we going to get like Sesame Street represented on the list?
Oh yeah, well, and my kid even had one for a short time. Yeah, it's all of these different Elmos though are pretty much timeless ways of recognizing Sesame Street.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Mike, what do you think about the Tickle Me Elmo?
Oh man, how best to say this? Don't wait till you get home. Shoot him now. Shoot him now. God.
It's better than the Teletubbies.
It's more... don't even get me started. It's more about the fad of it that I say that than the actual toy itself. Mm-hmm. Toy itself for kids at that time in 1996, 1997, 98, that was great. Obviously, I was aged out of that because I was 16, 17, and 18 at that point in time, and I was doing a whole bunch of other crazy crap and whatever else. But it was nice to see, because again, I know we've had some Sesame Street stuff over the years. I don't know if there was I don't think there was specific actual action figure. Sesame Street kind of falls into that all range of either it's a doll or it's a puppet or it's a this or it's a that or it's not a PVC figure or whatever kind of thing. And taking away the whole fad aspect of it, Tickle Me Elmo was great. It was hilarious. It got kids to engage. It got young, it got the whatever demographic they were shooting for to play with the dang thing, and it made Elmo even more popular than he already was.
Absolutely. All right. It's going to be interesting to track that and the different fads that have happened, which ones make the countdown, which ones don't. But we'll keep track of that as we go. We're going to go back to the world of board games for number 88. So we've had Well, what did we had so far? We had Trouble, and we had Tic-Tac-Toe. I'm going to go to a little bit of a more advanced board game here, probably. I love this game. It didn't make my countdown, but I love it. This one came around in 1957 from Parker Brothers. I guess it originated in France. Hasbro now owns it. It was a Toy Hall of Fame maker in 2021, so it just recently became a member of the National Toy Hall of Fame. We're talking about the game Risk. So this is the game of global domination here, Risk. I love this game. I could never find enough of my friends that wanted to play it, but with family get-togethers and things like that, we would always play it, and I truly think this is a great game. I, for some reason, didn't vote for it, though, but that's, again, because I only had so many board games I was allowing in, and there was other factors that I tried to make it, not just personal ones that I liked, but I love the game of Risk, so I'm fine with it making it here, even if I didn't vote for it. Steve, what do you think of the game of Risk?
It wasn't my jam, but I knew a ton of people that played it.
Yeah. It's kind of like it was like a precursor to a lot of the stuff that I see that has come since in more advanced ways, like and much more crazy, like strategies and things like that. Like that genre became something completely different in the years later. Like I know we said 1957, but like even during our childhood, it was still kind of a unique thing. But like really in the 90s, and then especially since then, games like this have become a whole different, like an entire industry of in and of itself. But Risk kind of predated that craze. Mike, what do you think of the game of Risk?
I like it. Never really played too much of it. I played it every now and then, but it was never really my thing as far as board games. And at the time that it got really popular, that it was making a comeback or whatever you want to say about it in the mid to late 90s, I was already out of board games. So, no, it deserves to be here, definitely. Oh,
that's a weird.
When you're a ward of the state of Kentucky and go through 15 different placements, I was out of board games at that point. Yeah.
All right. Well, we're going to move on to another one that's interesting. This is kind of just making like a miscellaneous like games category, I think is what we placed it in, because otherwise it really doesn't have a spot within something else. I'm hoping that you guys can talk. I think Steve might be able to talk about this, and I'm totally guessing, but just based on the timeline, because this is something that has been around for actually a long time, but was really made popular in the 1990s. It became a new thing again. Originally, it might have been called something like Milk Caps, but we knew it in the 90s as Pogs.
Hurry, Skeletor, hurry! I am hurrying, I'm hurrying!
The Powers of Grayskull series has covered every episode of all of the Masters of the Universe cartoons except for 2. Join Optimus Solo and TFG and Mike as they tell tales of Eternia, discover the myths of Etheria, become masters in space, evolve into the Masters of Grayskull, and finally reveal the revelation of Masters of the Universe. We'll also be finding out the origins of how guests got into or out of watching the Masters of the Universe cartoons, and so much more. You can find the podcast at geekcastradio.com and any podcatching client you choose to use. By the power and for the honor of Grayskull, we all have the power.
He-Man! Always He-Man!
The little circular discs that had all kinds of different designs, logos, and things of that nature. It became like a national I think there was like worldwide or national tournaments of these things or something. I never really knew much about it besides that I knew my friends and some people that I knew that would like collect them. I didn't see a whole lot of people actually playing the game. Did you guys ever have any interaction with Pogs, Mike?
Never played the game. I just collected them because they were cool at the time. Again,
did you have like specific ones that you collected, like
the He-Man ones or the this ones or the whichever ones that came out that were characters that I liked, I found a way to get them.
Gotcha. Steve, this was a little bit more in your kind of timeline as far as when you were growing up. Was Pogs a thing where you were?
Oh yeah, totally. We used to trade them. We used to.
Yeah.
I had the Pog Maker.
Nice.
I had the Slammers, like a bunch of them. I want to say I had Transformer ones. I had Power Ranger ones, Star Trek. I made a bunch of Pogs just based off stuff I printed, and you could have it stamped onto stuff. So I used to make quite a few of them that I didn't have. And with, the advent of the internet and just stuff that, you could find printed on things.
I do remember the whole idea of the slammer or whatever.
Oh yeah.
Like the thing.
Yeah, because you would make like I forget how it was played, but I want to say there were like little Pog towers or different Pogs, and you would hit it with the slammer, and then the concept was if you certain ones fell on your side or did something, then you won. I could be totally butchering this, but I was not one of those ones that like to give up my stuff, so I never played it competitively.
Right.
If I was doing a trade, it was always advantageous for me. But yeah, I mean, for the most part, I think I just collected them because it was something cool to look at, and I think I enjoyed making them more than buying them.
This is another one that maybe not like the fad like we saw with Tickle Me Elmo, where it was a toy that like took over the season, but it was definitely a fad as far as like a wide population of children that were into it at once. So it wasn't necessarily something that like moms were breaking down the Target or Walmart, Kmart doors to get, but it was something that was very popular within like a certain group of kids. I don't know if you guys experienced this or not. I know I read, and I can't remember if this happened at our school or not, that a lot of schools were actually banning them or basically make it because it was like they considered it a form of like gambling because you were trading and like doing different things, or because it was just becoming a distraction at school.
Oh yeah, it was totally a distraction. They would actually take them if they caught us.
Yeah, it was interesting how that works.
I don't think it was because of the gambling aspect of it, but it was
the trading.
Definitely it was distracting.
What they said was a little bit like gambling or something because you would bet stuff on.
Well, we used to. I mean, they used to do that with us with magic cards. So
yeah, very simple.
Yeah.
That's our number 87. Go ahead.
I was going to say really quickly because I looked it up. As far as the gameplay with the slammer and whatever, the players take turns throwing the slammer down onto the top of the stack of milk caps, as it's called here, instead of Pogs, causing it to spring up and the milk caps to scatter. Each player keeps any milk caps that have flipped over. So
that was partially
flip
right.
over, reveal. Yeah, absolutely. But they were better to collect than they were to play the actual game.
Yeah. Number 86, we're going to go back into the world of board games. This is another National Toy Hall of Fame finalist. It has not made it in yet, though. Came about in about 1934 from Parker Brothers, currently owned by Hasbro. It was a United States and a UK kind of venture where kind of developed in both areas.
Monopoly.
Or country areas. And we're going to one that I think is a little bit more universal than Risk, so I understand why it's higher. This one for me is more like almost like Tic-Tac-Toe and Trouble, where it can be played with any age group, and we definitely played this a ton growing up, and this is the game Sorry.
Class, always proceed in an orderly fashion.
Sorry! Racing chase around the track.
Always remember to forgive and forget.
Sorry! You hit me, I'll get you back.
The game of Sorry. Slide, switch, and bump your way home before someone makes you.
Sorry!
And sends you back.
Never bump, push, or cut in line.
Sorry! Slide and bump them off the track.
Do we understand one another?
Sorry! You hit me, I'll get you back.
Anyone?
Sorry!
So I think this one's just like, it's a rite of passage. Like, you have to play this as a child. So it's like, I don't know, kind of in the same realm of like Chutes and Ladders or something of that nature, where it's just, you're just rolling dice and moving a piece, and like sometimes good things happen and sometimes bad thing happens. Like, it's a standard board game mechanics there, but for some reason this was one that our family played a lot. So for some reason I still didn't vote for it. Again, I'm gonna have to go back and check which board games I voted for, because it hasn't been it wasn't Trouble, it wasn't Risk, and it wasn't Sorry, but I see the point why all three of them would be on the countdown. So, Mike, what do you think of the game? Sorry. Right.
Steve, you think I paid and not have to watch the damn commercials now?
Steve, did you ever play the game? Sorry.
Oh, yeah. We've played it with our kids, and my kids get so mad because my wife and I know how to play it, and we're like, oh, sorry. And then they're like, you're not sorry, you're mean. And they want to chuck the game, and it's like, no, that's the whole point of the game. And they're like, that's not right. And we're like, it's hilarious.
Right. So sorry, it's going to be an interesting debate on if we get the order of these board games right, or which ones appeared and which ones didn't appear, and all that kind of stuff. It'll be like a whole side debate that people can get into. So moving into our number 85, I guess we already had this category breached with Tickle Me Elmo as far as like stuffed things. So that's where we're going to for our number 85, which was also introduced, Mike, you like this, in 1985. So 1985. From the Worlds of Wonder, I believe, is the company that originally brought it out. I believe from my research, it's now owned by Wicked Cool Toys. And I didn't have one of these, but I did have a cousin that had one of these, and I remember thinking it was very cool. And obviously, I remember some other things. They had a cartoon and some other stuff. But we're talking about Teddy Ruxpin here for number 85. The stuffed bear that you could put tapes in, and it would read stories and things of that nature.
Show and tell time. Another teddy bear? My teddy's name is Teddy Ruxpin. He talks, he tells stories,
4 batteries not included.
Hi, my name is Teddy Ruxpin. Can you and I be friends?
Yeah.
I really enjoy talking to people. I would like you.
Teddy Ruxpin, the storytelling bear, comes with illustrated book and cassette from Worlds of Wonder.
Unless it didn't work right, and then it sounded like the devil was inside.
I had 2 of those things, man, and my parents, like, the first one broke. They bought me a second one. And then I want to say, like, I don't know if it went to the Teddy Ruxpin, but they had Ninja Turtle tapes with books that would read to you. And I would put it in him and have him read it as the characters. So it was hilarious.
But I just know when it was dying or when something was going wrong with it. But Teddy Ruxpin, it maybe was not like a fad as much as like Tickle Me Elmo was, but it was definitely something that was popular for a specific amount of years. And I didn't vote for it, but I have no problem with it being here on our countdown. Mike, what do you think?
Yeah, same. I actually had one of these damn things, and I can vouch for the fact that if...
Ooh. Technical difficulties. Let's move on, shall we?
I still remember how difficult it was to even try to get the tape recorder fixed. You couldn't get it fixed.
Yeah, but that was their point for you to buy a new one.
Availability 85 to 2019.
Wow, I didn't know it was around for that long. I don't know where you could have got it. I haven't seen it in stores forever, but
I saw them a number of years ago. They had them with digital eyes.
Oh wow, that's
and you
scary.
could plug in like MP3s or something to them.
So from the original run, 85 to 90 was Worlds of Wonder. 91 to 96 was Hasbro. Yes Entertainment had it from 88 to 89. Backpack Toys had it from 05 to 2010, and then Wicked Cool Toys had it from 2017 to 2019. And
so it is no more?
Yeah, pretty much, as far as I can tell.
Poor Teddy Ruxpin.
Yep.
All right, let's move on. I can't believe these two are back-to-back as well, but we're going to go one that I did vote for, and this was a Toy National Hall of Fame final, or made it an inductee in 1998. This one's been around since about 1900. You can't put a specific date because there's multiple people that claim that they invented this, but I don't know if you can really pinpoint that. There was multiple patents that were being issued around the same time in the 1900 to 1909-ish era. So we went from Teddy Ruxpin to the teddy bear. So the reason I voted for this was because I was using this kind of as a placeholder for just stuffed animals in general. Like, the teddy bear is probably one of the most famous, just generic stuffed animals. And I think every kid has stuffed animals. So that's kind of why the rationale I used to vote for the teddy bear. I think a teddy bear is just one of the most common of those stuffed animals. Obviously, there's a million different stuffed animals, but I just think teddy bear kind of represents that whole group. So that's why I voted for it. And I'm fine with it, obviously, making the list since I voted for it. But Mike, what do you think of the teddy bear?
Yeah, I agree.
Did you have a favorite stuffed animal growing up?
I had a dark gray / black elephant with like pinkish eyes and a weird color under his trunk. And I forget what that thing used to do. It made some sort of noise. But yeah, teddy bears are great. What?
That sounds scary. Steve, what do you think of the teddy bear?
I agree with that, and I still have one in a tote from my childhood. I think the thing is 6 months older than I am, or 6 months younger than I am. Something. You can still find them on eBay, which I found kind of interesting.
Yeah, I still have a whole tote of some of mine too, and I've taken some like maybe, I don't know, 3 of them or something that were in real good shape, and like they're in my daughter's room, and she has them now, so that was kind of cool.
Yeah, mine's in a tote in my office, actually.
Nice.
Funny enough, like just that's where it ended up.
So for number 83, it's going to be maybe painfully evident as we make our way through the countdown that we had a majority of our contributors were male. So there's a lack of maybe some female representation that we may or may not see. And I think it's good that we're seeing this one, because I think that is something that maybe at times gets voted on maybe more from the female audience. So our number 83, there's no way you can put a date on this one as far as origins go, because it's probably been around since forever almost. And this is just the generic idea of dress up kits, dress up clothing, things of that nature. Like my daughter has like these bins in her room where her toys are. And like one of her bins is just strictly dress up stuff. Like it's hats, it's scarves, it's tiaras, it's necklaces, it's rings, it's things of that nature. So, and there was some more formal like dress up kits. Like you could have gone and bought one that was like a specific thing, like a doctor dress up kit or like a police officer dress up kit or whatever it might be. So these have been around just since as long as like clothes or different things like that have been around, basically dressing up like something else. So I think it definitely fits on the list. It made my list. I think I had it in the 90s somewhere. But dress up kits is just kind of a thing that all kids at some point play dress up, especially girls. So Steve, what do you think about the dress up kit?
I'm fine with that. Like for the most part, when I think about it, like just, you know, dressing up in costumes, dressing up in, you know, whatever.
Right.
My boys have astronaut costumes, police, firefighters, jungle, like all different kinds of stuff. I mean, technically, that even kind of counts as like early cosplay for the most part.
Right.
Yep. I have a Star Trek uniform.
I like it. I think I had early on. I had cowboy stuff. Like I had the little gun that you could put in your holster on your side. Like I don't know if it was like some form of chaps or something like that. And
probably
I had a whole cowboy getup with a cowboy hat and like everything, the vest. Mike, what about you? Any dress up stuff that you ever had?
Not really. My old cousins had that kind of stuff. Me and my cousin Robbie, we didn't really get into all that.
What do you think of it being on the list?
Oh yeah, no, it just definitely deserves to be on the list because a lot of people have, like, you know, Steve said, a lot of people have done it and still do it to this day, kind of thing. So yeah, absolutely.
All right, so dress up kits takes our number 83. We're getting close to the end here. Only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 more today. So for our number 82, we're going back to the world of board games, and I think this one for me made my list because it seems to be one of those that was like universally enjoyed by a certain age group. Like it represents like the child board game to me perfectly. Like it seems like all the very young children played this game at one time or another, compared to like Risk, which was probably more of a adult or like a teenage game. So I think this one represents like that early child like sector better. It came out in 1978 from Milton Bradley, and that is the game Hungry Hungry Hippos.
Play Hungry Hungry Hippos! Fun, 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 ton. They're hungry, hungry hippos! It's a wild, wild race, feed your hippos face! They're hungry, hungry hippos!
It's Hungry Hungry Hippos! Whoever gobbles up the most marbles wins!
You better eat fast, fast food won't last! They're hungry, hungry hippos! It's fun, 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 ton. They're hungry, hungry hippos!
Hungry Hungry Hippos from Milton Bradley.
I just think this is one that is just like iconic for kids. Like it wasn't one that I necessarily played that much, but it seems like it was just like the one that was like for a certain age group that always was very popular. The commercials I remember for sure, and it's just an interesting concept. So I have no problem with Hungry Hungry Hippos being here at number 82. Mike, what do you think?
I think it should be like 10 higher. This game was awesome. You talk about families fighting over Monopoly stuff, playing Monopoly, and I don't know where that's going to show up on this countdown, if it even will, but Hungry Hungry Hippos, that is a game for psycho children. Just sitting there whacking the thing, like, God,
gotta eat those things.
Game? Yeah, you gotta eat those balls. You gotta have them hippos eat those balls, or whatever the hell they were. Hungry Hungry Hippos was awesome. Loved Hungry Hippos.
What do you think of Hungry Hungry Hippos?
I mean, I get it, and it was iconic for the time, but
I didn't have it.
I don't have it. I had friends that had it, but that, I mean, I can see it just because, again, a lot of these things that we're bringing up on this record, even this early on, were pretty heavily in the kids' viewpoint and commercials and plastered everywhere. So they're all resonating.
Totally. So board games dominating this section of the countdown so far. Let's see if we can, if action figures will make a comeback here with number 81. We are going back to the world of action figures. We've had wrestling figures. We've had starting lineup figures. We've had Dino riders. How about, Steve, you'll enjoy this one. How about some Star Trek action figures? So 1981. Number 81 is our Star Trek action figures, which I believe first made an appearance around 1974 with a company called Mego.
Yep.
There's been a lot of different lines since then. Obviously, there's been tons of different Star Trek series and movies, and it seems like companies have always had a line that associates with that. So there's been a lot of different versions. I have at least 15 to 20 Star Trek action figures in a tote somewhere that I've gotten. Like, I never had them as a kid, but that I've gotten at like retro toy stores that were here and there, or yard sales that were really cheap. So I've picked up some here and there. But Steve, you're obviously a very much a fan of the Star Trek franchise. So what do you think of the Star Trek action figures? How were they in comparison to a lot of other action figures? And are you happy that they're on the countdown, or sad that they're at number 81?
I'm sad that they're at number 81. However, the Mego stuff was not that great. And then I think there was like some bendy ones they had at one point, just like Star Wars. They had some other, a lot of them just looked like crap until Playmates got a hold of it. And Playmates took it, knocked it out of the park until the Star Trek 2009 came out. And I think they lost the license at that point. And then it just was all over the place with other companies, Toy Asylum, McFarlane, and there's still some other companies that are doing them even now. But Playmates has recently gotten the rights back over the last year or two. And I have to say, the quality of the figures from back then to now is starkly different. The stuff from back then, I felt like looked more like the actors, more like the characters. They used more of a gloss, just put more, they put more work into it back then. The stuff that's coming out now, unless it's a reproduction of something like the phaser or the communicator with new sound effects or lights or whatever, because those, I've seen them, they're the same cost as the originals that came out in the early 90s. And they are pretty much the same, but the action figures themselves are a smidge shorter, smidge thinner. They put flat paint on it, and they feel very rubbery and cheap. But they cost, depending on the store, like they're like about the same as what they used to cost. And Playmates has done that with Turtles too. Like they cost about what they used to cost, which is nice. But they're succumbing to the cheapness factor that all the other toy companies have had to hit at some point. So while I'm excited for Star Trek to hit here, they don't exactly have a great track record since the 90s run of the toys.
I think what bugged me about the Star Trek figures was the accessories just being one color. A lot. I don't know which line was that it was, but it was like, here's a backpack and here's a phaser and here's this, but they're all orange. and there's no detail to it. Like, I don't know which line that was, but it kind of bugged me a little bit.
I miss their stuff though, because Playmates was the only company that seemed to make like the bridge or make the transporter room or make all these accessory locations or vessels like the shuttlecrafts and things that they could actually go in. Whereas a lot of companies didn't tend to do that.
Right.
You had to kind of create it yourself, but I mean, now we're in the age of 3D printing, so I mean, if it doesn't exist, somebody will make it.
That is for sure. Mike, any thoughts on Star Trek?
He means to say if it doesn't exist, Steve will make it. I was never a Star Trek kid when it came to the toys, and I was really put off by them because one of my mom's boyfriends or ex-boyfriends or whatever, he had a huge Star Trek collection, and he was like, don't touch them, they need to stay in the box. They need to hold their... And this was in the mid to late 80s, and I'm like, okay, hey, boomer, you got it.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, and all as I can think of is the episode of The Big Bang Theory. Sheldon breaks his figure, he steals Leonard's, and then Leonard Nimoy comes in as Spock.
Oh no, they sent the wrong Spock. Live long and suck it, Zachary Quinto.
I can think of.
Oh my.
Yep.
All right, well, we have 5 toys left to reveal today. Before we do that, we're going to take a break, but stay tuned, because when we come back from the break, we're going to have a shocking entrant, to me at least, at number 80. I can't believe this made the countdown.
Our action figures have arrived. This is the best $500 I've ever spent.
$1,000 on action figures? How can you afford that?
Easy. His family's loaded, and Bernadette has a great job. My wife came with both fun bags and money bags.
Say hello to an exact scale model of me. Oh, I'm not dark chocolate. I'm melt-in-your-mouth caramel.
Oh, man.
Look at my nose.
Maybe it's a shipping problem.
What?
Yeah, maybe Wesley Snipes and Toucan Sam just got action figures that look like you guys.
This sucks.
I can't believe I wasted all that money. Oh, and my girlfriend wouldn't let me get one. Look at my face. Do I look smug? I feel smug.
Yo, Joe, and welcome to the Cracktastic Plastic Podcast, where a punk rock band of brothers get together to talk about one of our shared loves, toy collecting.
Toy hunt by day, punk rock band by night. We'll take any excuse to get in the van.
We all collect different toy lines like those real American heroes.
G.I. Joe! To the toys that are more than meets the eye, Transformers. To He-Man and the Masters of the Universe.
From vintage to modern and all topics in between, you can always expect some rowdy and passionate discussion because we love talking toys here on the Cracktastic Plastic Podcast.
Do you ever catch yourself wondering about those old retro and classic toys you grew up with? Maybe reminiscing about the amazing toys you received for your birthdays or Christmases. Yeah, we do too. So we created a podcast to talk all about those amazing toys. Catch the Toy Rewind podcast each week as the brothers Newland discuss and learn the history behind some of the best toys from years past. You can listen on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or pretty much anywhere you get podcasts. Also, be sure to check out ToyRewindPodcast.com for more content about those classic toys you loved.
Just an old guy talking about old toys. It's me, Willie, from the Toy Tune Podcast. I talk about toys from the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, few 90s, and some mixtures of other toys in there as well. If you'd like to hear me talk about some old toys in podcast form, I'm available on Apple, Stitcher, iHeartRadio. Just like an infectious earworm, I'm all over the place. If you like to see videos on old toys and old retro games, check out my YouTube channel at Arcade USA. Thanks for listening.
Hi, I'm Dan, and I'm the host of the Rock Nerd Radio Show, which airs live on HudsonRiverRadio.com every Wednesday evening at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It also gets backed up as a podcast, which you can find on your preferred podcasting platform. Every week on my show, I talk about all kinds of pop culture. I talk about music, I talk about movies, TV, comics, collectibles, and so much more. I also feature a guest on my show periodically, which you might enjoy. I have a couple of special segments on my show, one called the Cover Song of the Week and My Favorite Thing in the World This Week. If you think this sounds cool, check it out sometime. I hope you do.
What was that universal greeting again? Never mind, I remember. Ba weep grana, weep nitty bong.
Hey guys, it's Rodimus Primal, and be sure to check out my YouTube channel. Join me as I have Transformers discussions, retrospectives, toy reviews, and more. You can also follow me on Twitter at Rodimus Primal, as well as Facebook and Instagram at Rodimus Primal Show. Transform and roll out, and be sure to check out my content till all are one.
Last big party of the summer, folks. Let's go out with a bang.
It is a world transformed, where things are not what they seem.
Transformers.
Want to learn a bit about the Transformers? Think you know everything about Cybertron, but are looking to learn a little bit more? Enroll today at Transformers University Podcast. Each episode will tackle a piece of Transformers history, starting in 1984 and marching our way up to today. Hosted by me, Anthony Brucali, 3-time Emmy Award winner and consulting producer on Netflix's The Toys That Made Us, and lifelong Transformers fan. We'll go on a journey through cartoons and comics, toys and movies, and all the weird esoterica from around the world, chronicling the adventures of everyone's favorite robots in disguise. Listen to Transformers University on iTunes, Google, Spotify, YouTube, and wherever you get your favorite podcasts.
Transform and roll out.
Hey toy fans, this is John, also known as Iacon Dispatch. You can find me on pretty much every social network at Iacon Dispatch, where I share cool Transformers and Star Wars stuff that I like. Thanks so much to the great people at Geekcast Radio Network for putting this awesome project together and for once again letting me contribute to it. Definitely had a lot of fun with it. Take it easy, everyone, and I'll see you around online.
On the Simplistic Reviews podcast, we talk movies. We talk TV. We talk...
Hello, Julie, what the heck are you doing?
Trying to make our spots sound more exciting by adding explosions.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you could have got the point across with sound effects, not the real thing. Car.
Download this show on iTunes or at simplisticreviews.blogspot.com.
I'm sure your insurance company will cover that.
No, they won't.
No, they probably won't.
All right, thanks for sticking with us. We are in our final 5 toys for this first episode of our toy countdown, numbers 100 through 76. We take off here at number 80. And we're going to go back to the world of action figures. This one was a 1987 line that was kind of a co-production between Hasbro and Takara. And maybe you guys can speak more to this, because I would never have voted on this in a million years when it comes to if I was just voting on action figures, I don't think this would have made my top 50. But a lot of fans of this, so I'm not trying to hate. We're talking about a line of toys called the Battle Beasts.
Battle Beast wood, fire, fire burns wood. Battle Beast fire, water, water puts out fire. Battle Beast water, wood beats water. Battle Beast, battle for the fun of it. Just activate their battle badges.
I got fire, I got water, water beats fire.
Battle Beast,
wood, fire, fire beats wood.
Battle Beast can grow into an army. Collect all 84. Battle Beast.
Oh yes.
So, Mike, go ahead.
Oh yes, the Battle Beasts were awesome. We got a chance to actually interview a person who was I don't know if they're still working on it or not. They were working on a Battle Beast guide or book or something. Eric Braley, he does the Transformers magazine thing that he's been doing for years. But Battle Beasts were awesome. I think it was wood, fire, and water were the 3 original symbols. I had these things you know how everyone's like, oh, you're going to step on all of Mikey's micro machines. No, you're going to step on all of Mikey's Battle Beasts. Don't step on my Battle Beast, damn it. Oh, I love these things. They were so cool. Next to Transformers, the single greatest rub sign ever.
Yes, there was wood, fire, and water, and then later Sunburst, which could beat all of them. It's like a rock, paper, scissors type thing.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
Yes. Steve, did you ever have these?
No, I've seen them. There was a video game that came out. It was called Battle Beast, so that was the only, it's different, but it kind of reminded me of that. It didn't appeal to me whatsoever. I was not one of these people that love these, weird looking toys.
I'm not trying to hate because I've never had them, so I can't say if they were good or bad. I've honestly never seen these. I've never heard of them before we did this countdown. So it's a black hole for me, and that's strange because I don't feel like I missed much in the 80s, but apparently I missed the Battle Beast. So, all right, let's make our way to what I will consider.
Wait. I'm sorry. I have not really looked into Battle Beast too much, but the fact that Series 1 called Autobots and Decepticons, what the hell?
Yeah, because it's a Takara Hasbro type thing.
Oh,
so
right. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yep.
Into that.
Got it. Okay.
So for our number 79, we're staying with action figures, but an action figure of a different kind, I think, for me. This, again, it seems like every kid that was born in the 80s probably played with one of these at least once. It was originated in 1976 from Kenner. We're talking about the iconic Stretch Armstrong.
Breaking news. Today, unpredictable events have occurred across the globe. Who has come to save the day for humanity? Who is this mysterious, mighty hero? Stretch Armstrong. Your stretchable superhero. Stretch him 4 times his size. He becomes bigger than a building. Tie him into a knot. He always goes back to his original shape. Stretch him again and again. Stretch Armstrong. The return only from character. Stretch Armstrong.
So Stretch Armstrong, the toy that you could pull and try to break. And that was the goal, I think, when you played you were like, how long can I stretch this until it breaks? And then it would ooze its way back into form. And I don't even know what was inside the thing. I never looked at it. I'm sure there's lots of YouTube videos or whatever, people cutting it open with finding whatever gel thing that was in there. It looked like corn syrup.
Don't eat it.
But this latex rubber filled Stretch Armstrong, I think I never had one, but I for sure played with one at one point at somebody's house. So Mike, what do you think of Stretch Armstrong?
Yeah, I had Stretch Armstrong here and there over the years. It was fun enough, but it wasn't end of the world. I could play with this toy on a desert island kind of fun.
This, I don't know if this ever did, but this feels like this toy should have been involved in one of the Toy Story movies at some point. Just feels like it would have fit into that world. Steve, what do you think of Stretch Armstrong? Does it deserve to be in our top 100?
I think so. I mean, I remember seeing the commercials when I was watching Beast Wars, so I knew a lot of people that had them. It wasn't one of those things that I had.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of wanted one as a kid, but my parents went for quality, not for random stuff that I wouldn't care about.
All right, so Stretch Armstrong at our number 79. So far in the countdown, we've only had one toy that was originated in the 1960s. That was Trouble. But we're going to get another one here with our number 78 and let the debate begin on what is better. Is it Power Wheels or is it Big Wheels?
Big Wheels.
Big Wheels are coming in here at number 78. This is a 2009 inductee of the National Toy Hall of Fame.
Big wheels are a-rolling with big fat wheels in back. Those fat back wheels are something else. Fat enough to take turns at full speed. Slick enough so when you jam on the brakes, you spin. Spin! Big wheel with handbrake and fat wheels in back. Some assembly required. Big Wheel by Marx.
Came around in 1969 from Marx Toys. Obviously, there's versions of toys that have wheels like this throughout time, but 1969 is kind of when Marx Toys made it a thing. And obviously Big Wheels was very popular, more so in the 80s, it seemed like, and obviously they're still around today. So Mike, we had Power Wheels at number 93. We have Big Wheels at 78. Is that right or wrong?
Oh, that's definitely right, because Big Wheels were definitely the cooler thing, because you were powering it. You had to power. There was no power to it. There was, McFly, you moron, those boards don't work on water. They ain't got no power. You need that. You need the power to work the Big Wheel. I had the Knight Rider Big Wheel.
Oh my God.
I had the Ninja Turtle Big Wheel.
Yeah, I had the Knight Rider.
The Knight Rider Big Wheel, much less.
Oh yeah, love that thing.
I used that thing so long that I burned through the plastic on the tires.
Nice. So this was like the Power Wheels. It was like that toy that nobody had, but like they wanted. Big Wheels was the toy that everybody had.
Everybody had because they were so cool. Because they saw if you look at the Knight Rider, they're cheaper, obviously. But if you look at the Knight Rider one, it basically juts out as Kit's hood from the car, so it was almost like I had the car kind of thing. And then the back, when you had the handlebars or whatever the hell you call it, whatever, it was decorated like his inside dashboard. And really quickly, before I forget, it was some kind of corn syrup inside Stretch Armstrong originally.
Yeah, that's what I said. I thought it was corn syrup or something like that. It was a proprietary substance, though, so it had a secret formula. I know the Big Wheel, like the classic blue, red, and yellow one. I never had one specifically, but I'm sure I played with one at some point. So I think Big Wheels is the more played with toy versus Power Wheels, so I get why it would be higher here. So, and it's the only one out of the two that's in the National Toy Hall of Fame, so they agree with us as well. All right, that leaves room for only two. We're going to go back to back with the 1960s toys here. This one was introduced in 1966 from Milton Bradley. That usually means that it's a board game, guys. Milton Bradley, that's what they did back in the day. This was a 2015 Toy Hall of Fame inductee. This has a lot of various uses. Kids can play with it. Adults can play with it. It can be tame. It can be not tame. We're talking about the game of Twister.
There's excitement going round. There's a party going down. Twister, the hot spot. Yeah, Twister. Your feet and hands go down, but you gotta stay up. Twister, the hot spot. Twister, the hottest game around. Twister, the hot spot.
At number 77, the ultimate party game, I guess, if you want to like interlock legs and arms with the opposite sex or whatever you're doing. So, and try to like turn your body into ways that it shouldn't turn.
Oh my! 70s was weird, man, and I wasn't even around then. But
about 1966, but Twister, it's so far it's by far the toy that has been on the most lists. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. It made 14 lists. Nothing else has. I think the highest up to this point was like 11 for Hungry Hippos. So it's been the one that's been on the most lists. So there's a little bit of a universal appeal. I actually didn't. It says I didn't vote for Twister. I'm gonna have to check my thing.
I didn't either.
No, I didn't.
I must have left Twister off, but like I said, when it came to board games, I only had room for so many, and it had to be like the best of the best. And Twister didn't quite make that cut. I get that it's like the universal party game. It's not a game that I ever wanted to play too much, though, because I don't know, it wasn't for me. But Steve, what do you think about Twister?
I mean, I guess I can see why it's on there. I've never been one that cared for this game.
Mike, were you a Twister fan?
No. My body, even as a skinny ass child in the 80s, my body did not contort like that.
Yeah, I'm not a contortionist.
No. No, like yellow hand green, right leg blue. Like, no, I'm not. No, that's not fun to me at all.
Left kneecap broken.
Pretty much, yeah.
So, all right. So that is our number 77. That leaves us one left today. Our number 76. It's a 2006 inductee into the National Toy Hall of Fame. It's been around since the early 1900s in various versions, but perhaps the most popular version of this specific type of toy would be the one that came from the company Lionel. We're talking about the train.
If anybody loves trains, it's me, Johnny Cash. You know, if your boy's under 10 like mine is, he needs a big Lionel like this Black River Freight. Lionel also makes HO gauge trains for older kids, like this Burlington 181. But for smaller hands, the big Lionel is easier to handle and put on the track. This Christmas, get your boy a train that's built for the way young boys play. A big, rugged Lionel. Lionel, the big train for small hands.
So Lionel trains or toy trains, you know, the classic train track around your Christmas tree with the train going, or like the awesome train sets with houses and yards and trees and kinds of stuff like on a humongous table. The toy train, like which boy hasn't, you know, it seems like that's like a rite of passage. Like every boy gets like a toy train, or it's kind of like the model car or the remote control car to me, like the Lionel train set or whatever train set company you buy one from. I think it's also one of the most frustrating toys of all time, because I swear to goodness, like there's always something that's making it not run right.
Yep.
Yeah.
I have in our garage the toy train set that I got one year for Christmas, and I was like, oh, I'm going to get this out and like see if my daughter thinks it's cool or whatever. Do you think I could get that thing to run properly? Heck no, because there's always like one part of the track that's not touching right, so the current's not going through, or something bananas is happening, or something's bent the wrong way. So it's a very frustrating toy. I eventually just shoved it all back in the box and threw it back in the garage. But it is cool when it's working right. It's cool to look at. It's cool when you're at a store that has like some gigantic like train display that's going around like the whole store or something like that. Like that's all cool. It's frustrating to it's like trying to set up 1,000 dominoes without them tipping over to me. Like it just never works. So, but I totally get why it's here. I voted for trains because I think it just deserves to be here. Steve, what do you think?
I didn't, funny enough, put it on my list, but I think it's because I kind of lumped it in with like model kits. I mean, I can definitely see the appeal. My grandpa actually has a kit he bought my uncle for Christmas when he was like 8 or 9, but my uncle never got into it, so my grandpa did. And fast forward, he's like 84. He has a model train kit that's the size of my office in his basement that he's constructed, and goes through walls, lights up, and everything else. And like he's built all the buildings, the landscapes, the train set, everything, and it runs perfectly. But
that's crazy.
It's insanely insanely good.
The one thing about it is it's super cool when it's done right, and it's cool to look at. But if you're the one that's doing it, like it takes a massive amount of space. Like you have to dedicate rooms to this, if not floors of your house to this. And like, it's crazy if you're able to pull that off. But like, yeah, so trains were in 3 people's top 10. Mike, do you think it's worthy?
Oh yeah, most definitely. Like you guys have said, as long as it's done right, it is really, really cool. And the funny thing is there was a Transformers train set.
Huh.
The Tyco train set. It was Transformers based, and our good buddy, he's been gone a number of years now, but Optimus Scourge, who helped me create Toycast, he has a video on his old YouTube channel. This video is 12 years old, Transformers Tyco train set test, that I will embed into this episode post on geekcastradio.com. Unfortunately, he passed away, I think, 2010, 2011, somewhere around there. Maybe it was a few years after that, I forget, but he's been gone a long time now. And as soon as you said train, I'm like, oh, okay. I know exactly which video I'm embedding in this podcast post, because that's the only train set video I remember seeing from anybody that I knew on YouTube way back in the day.
All right, so that is our numbers 100 or 101, I guess, through 76. I'm going to do a quick recap and then get your guys' opinion of this first section of the countdown. So far, we have had 6 board games. We've had 6 action figures. We've had 3 toys that were more for outside, 4 toys that have wheels, 3 stuffed toys, 2 from the electronic world, 1 from clothing, and 1 from just miscellaneous games. We have had nothing from the ball category, the base element category, the books, the buildings, the cards, crafts, educational, food, or the miscellaneous, or music. None of those categories have shown up at all. So that's where we're at from that standpoint. We had 5 toys that either came from the 1900s or before, 2 from the 1930s, 0 from the 1940s, 4 from the 50s, 3 from the 60s, 3 from the 70s, 6 from the 80s, 2 from the 90s, and 1 from the 2000s. And company-wise, we had 2 from Kenner, 2 from Tyco, 2 from Milton Bradley, 2 from Parker Brothers, 1 from LJN, 2 from Whammo, and a couple that were just like more one-offs. So no Hasbro and no Mattel really so far. So
which means good things to come.
Or just less of those than people think actually existed as far as the originator of them. There are 7 toys that we talked about today that are currently owned by Hasbro, even though none of them were originally developed by Hasbro. So, Mike, biggest surprise, or what is your reactions to numbers 101 through 76?
I think it's a good bottom half of the list.
If by bottom half we mean bottom quarter.
Whatever, same thing. It's interesting to see where they evolve. Now that we know where this first 25 are, it's going to be really interesting to kind of see where people might guess what the next 25 might be.
Yeah, another interesting thing, like I said in the intro episode, we've had 3 people's number ones didn't make the countdown at all. So they're not going to show up at all. We had 0 number ones show up today. So the highest we had, I believe here was, let me do a quick scan. We had some that were ranked like in the, like around 4. Somebody had, let's see, or 5, I guess it would be. Yeah, number 5 for Xbox. Somebody had Xbox ranked at number 5. Somebody had Teddy Bear ranked at 5. Somebody had Dress Up Kits at 5. Somebody had Lionel Trains at 4, actually, and Star Trek at 6. So those were like the highest ones. Oh, I'm sorry, Frisbee. Somebody had Frisbee at number 2. So we had somebody's number 2 fall today. But that's what we've had so far. Steve, what are your reactions so far?
Surprised as far as Star Trek, but not surprised as far as the rest of it.
Yeah. So currently we have a tie at the top. 6 entrants from the board game world and 6 entrants from the action figure world. Anybody want to put a bet on which one's going to reign supreme at the end?
I'm thinking action figures are going to rank.
Mike?
Yeah, pretty much.
Or is there going to be like a dark horse that's not in the lead right now that's going to come back as we make our way through there?
I don't think so.
And right now we have the 1980s holding supreme at number with 6 entrants. And the second is 1900s and before with 5. So that's another close race for sure. And like I said, no entrants from 1920s or 1940s so far. So, all right. So that's 101 through 76. Our next episode will go the rest of this half of the 50. So we'll go 75 through 51. It's going to be interesting to see how that shakes up because this half of the countdown, in at least in our history of doing these countdowns, 100 through 51 is like the wild cards. It's like you don't quite know what you're going to get. And it really starts to like solidify once you get to that top 50, you get it a little bit more almost predictable. We'll see what it is and when it's toys, because toys is like such a wide ranging topic.
Oh, yeah.
So, Mike, anything else you want to say about this one before we get on out of here?
I think that's it, but we do have to go to a quick ad break and we'll come back to close the show right after this.
Because the world needs another movie podcast.
The Geekcast Radio Network presents for your listening pleasure the Cinema Geek.
Hosted by Amanda, Kevin, Matt, and Dan.
Each week we dive headfirst in the landscape of movies as we discuss movie news, play movie games,
go in-depth on reviews,
and even have a top 10 countdown or 2.
Also, don't miss our director retrospective series, where we review noted directors' movies, film by film. Bottom line is, if you love movies and love podcasts, you need to experience the Cinema Geeks.
You can find us on iTunes, Blog Talk Radio, or GeekCastRadio.com.
Hello, geeks and geekettes! Looking for a podcast that covers a vast array of topics? Then check out Altered Geek Unleashed, where we discuss our thoughts on this week's geeky news, tech, gaming, television shows, movies, cartoons, comics, and more. So, get altered, get geeky with the Altered Geeks. Every Friday on the Geekcast Radio Network.
We are back, and we want to thank all the contributors that have sent us lists in to make up this Top 100 Toys Countdown. You've heard several of their ads throughout these first 2 episodes. And yeah, well, first quarter's done. Now we just need the rest of the $1.50 or however the hell many other math things there are. Any final thoughts before I run through the closing, guys?
No, I'm interested to see where this goes and interested to see what people's reactions are, and I can't wait to reveal the rest of the countdown as we make our way through.
Yup.
Oh. Thank you for joining us on the Top 100 Toys Countdown. If you'd like to get in contact with us, leave feedback for the show, there are several ways to do so. Visit the website where you can listen to and comment on all of our content. That's geekcastradio.com. You can send an email to feedback@geekcastradio.com. Follow us on X at Geekcast Radio for the network, at TF Toycast for Toycast Show. I'm at TF2 and Mike. Steve, what's your Twitter thing?
At SCP21.
Ev?
At Optimus Solo.
Check us out on Facebook, Geekcast Radio Network, and Toycast. And next time, as he said, it will be 75-51. For now, I am TFG1 Mike with
Steve Megatron
and Optimus Solo.
And we're going to close out with whatever the heck is right here.
Mike died.
I think Mike fell asleep.
We've done a lot of these countdowns. I've never had Mike disappear on us.
Yep. Never seen that happen either. Usually I'm the one that falls asleep.
Oh, there he messaged us. We're still recording, so he said his computer screwed up.
Yeah, it's still going.
What is thy bidding, my master?
There is a great disturbance in the force. It is battery.
If you only knew the power on the dark side.
Still going. Nothing outlasts the Energizer battery. It keeps going and going.